You have found the Open Eclectic Podcast, where Nate and Josh talk about everything from mobile games to books to pet peeves to cars to toys. Our interests run eclectic and we're open to more. Welcome to the Open Eclectic.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another fine episode of the Open Eclectic. Josh, how you doing?
I'm alright.
I'm Nate, by the way, in case anyone forgot.
I'm still Josh. Thank you for joining us again. If this is your first time listening, boy, are you in for a treat.
That's right.
If you've stuck with us since day one, and I know that there's one of you who has, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Our super fan.
Our super fan.
What?
We should find out if she wants to be named. Save that for a later episode.
Yeah. You know, maybe we can even have her on. We haven't had guests yet.
You know who you are. You want to come on?
Let us know.
Yeah.
Toot sweet.
Yeah.
I think that means, like, right away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what did we talk about? So, last time we met and recorded, we talked about, it was like, celebrity cameos. We just kind of riffed on a list of that stuff.
Yeah, it was not how that conversation was supposed to go, but that's all right.
No,
I don't mind.
Yeah, that's okay. We
have had no complaint emails about it, so I'm pretty happy
right.
with that.
Well, I mean, at this point, it hasn't come out yet, but
I wasn't going to mention that at all.
Reminder, Josh, cut that out later.
Listen, technically it's true. I mean, I listened to the audio and I didn't complain about it, so
I was there when we recorded it.
I can say with honesty,
no complaints.
No complaints.
Right. Yeah, we can cut that out. We can make it a surprise.
Cut it out.
Cut it out.
Ooh.
No cuts. No butts. No coconuts. Anyway, we're back from 4th grade or whenever that, I remember I used to say that in elementary school. Now, the no cuts, the cut it out thing obviously was Uncle Joey. Not right. Joey.
Full House.
It was Uncle Joey.
Yeah, it was
House,
Joey.
Yeah.
It had to have been. He was the only one.
Yeah, it was Joey. Yeah, well, I'm like, when I said Joey, I was like, that's John Stamos. I'm like, no. John Stamos was Uncle Jesse.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I have not watched the Fuller House.
I have seen some of it, actually.
Is it bearable, or?
Listen, it's probably exactly what you'd expect.
So
like, yeah.
I liked Full House, but when I was watching Full House, I was like 10.
It's one of those, like, wholesome shows, and even if you go back and watch the original Full House, it still is, it's like exactly as you remember it, kind of a thing.
I mean, it's very wholesome. I mean, obviously very corny, but it's very wholesome.
Goofy, wholesome, and sometimes they touch on, like, real serious things about, like, parties and stuff like that, and, how to make your family life work in some ways, which is something that I didn't, certainly as a child, I did not appreciate, but as an adult, the bits that I've watched, I'm like, you know what? This actually is not bad.
Okay, because Danny, right? Danny Tanner? That's Bob Saget, right?
Yes.
Did his wife die? Or was he divorced?
She died.
She died, okay.
Yes.
I don't remember how they all got to, like, live together, but I know he was...
in the 90s...
He was single.
You couldn't really do the whole... Could do the D word. I don't think you could have a divorce thing.
Well, death is a D word.
Well, yeah, the other D word. Fair point, sir. Fair point. Yeah. So the new show, it kind of definitely has a very similar structure to the original. In the original, Bob Saget, Danny Tanner, his wife had died, and so he was trying to figure out how to, like, raise his family, and so more of his family moves into the house, thus making it a full house.
Mm-hmm. Wait, how does it get fuller? Do they address that?
Well, because it's a more clever way than saying Full House again or two.
So they don't actually cram more people. Is it the same house?
So it's the same house, same.
Really?
Yeah, it looks
great
though.
Is Bob Saget in this show?
So in the new show,
I thought it focused on what's her name, like Candace.
Yeah, Candace Cameron Bure, aka DJ Tanner.
Yeah,
is the main character, and her husband had died, and so she moves back into her like family house.
Sad
because her dad, Bob Saget, Danny Tanner, he gets like a job. He works in like radio, so he gets a job out of state. So him and John Stamos and Lori Loughlin, who were like the main adults in the original, and Dave Coulier, of course, Coulier, Uncle Joey,
Uncle Joey,
right? They all have reasons why they're like not there, so they show up periodically to.
So they make like
they
guest
make
appearances or whatever. Okay.
And usually, if one shows up, it seems like they all do in the episodes I watched.
Like one pokes us their head through the door, and then the others just like
whoop,
and they all just like fall through the door.
Yeah. And so what makes it kind of a fuller house is that Kimmy Gibbler, the neighbor girl, who was friends with, kind of the idiot neighbor girl who was friends with DJ.
Oh yeah, Kimmy.
Moves in with them at one point, and then Jodie Sweetin comes back, aka Stephanie Tanner.
But the Olsen twins don't come back.
No, and that's like a running gag in the show.
Oh really?
Is that they're not there, or Michelle, because they played the twins played.
They were just one character. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a running gag. And they mention her, and they call her periodically and leave her messages or whatever. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, she called and said hi or whatever." So it's,
So she's still like
around,
but she's just not in the show.
You never see her, ever.
Is there 1 or 2 seasons of that new show? Just one?
Ooh, geez, there's at least 2. There might be 3 or more.
So is this a show you would recommend watching?
If you like Full House, then watch it. It's like a nice kid-safe show, so it's fine.
Maybe I'll watch it with my son.
It's got some interesting humor bits to me that I found wildly hilarious.
Is it more like? Is it on the same like? I don't know. I guess I want to say like level as what the original was, or do they like? Are there more serious parts, or is it less serious? Because the original was like, and obviously it was, pretty light, but they, like you said, they did touch on, heavier things occasionally.
So I haven't watched all of the new seasons.
Okay.
My wife was very interested in watching it, and she loved Full House, so I watched, I want to say 75% of the first season at least, and I think she watched the rest of season 2 without me, and she was just like, well, it was more of the same.
So it was like, it's just kind of like a comfort food kind of thing. You're just kind of like, it's Full House, more Full House, good.
Mm-hmm. There is like a humorous bit where there's like a couch that was significant in the original show, and it wears out. I'm doing the air quotes, listeners. In our audio medium, I'm gonna make some hand gestures. Did you catch that? So there's like a couch that was significant in the first series, and to the dad, to Bob Saget, and it like wears out or whatever, and so she like has it cut up, the salvageable parts of the fabric cut up into a suit for him. Yeah,
nice.
So there's like weird stuff like that, but then she gets another couch. She finds another couch that's exactly the same, and then moves that in. So it was just like. Okay.
Oh, so now he has a suit made out of the original and a new couch that looks exactly the same.
Yeah. So it's fine.
Okay, you know what show from that era that I would like line up outside somewhere to watch that?
Quantum Leap.
Well, yes, but I'm like separating like Quantum Leap is on a whole nother level. I'm talking about
fair point.
Like the shows that were on like the afternoon when you got home from school, like
Family Matters. That'd be my guess.
That is exactly it. Oh, Family Matters.
Yes, I agree. I think that's a show that could come back.
Why did they not bring it back?
I don't know.
Hold on. Is it Reginald Vell Johnson? Did he die? Carl, who's the main guy.
Carl? Oh, the dad from Family Matters? Yeah. I hear you're looking it up. I'm going to say that, yes, he died a couple years ago.
No, he's still alive. Ooh. Born in 1952, 69. He is, still alive.
Still alive? Okay, so they could totally do it.
He's been in...
Him and then Urkel and Laura could be married and like... Because didn't they get together at the end of the show?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
It's all just kind of like a haze. Like, I would watch it after school. I don't even know. That probably wasn't even like the new episodes either. That was probably just like reruns.
Probably. I'm afraid to go back and watch some of those shows because I have such fond memories of watching them that I'm afraid that if I watch them now, I'm going to be like, this is wretched.
Yeah.
But I kind of do want to just...
I would love to see that given the Fuller House treatment.
Yeah. That could be.
Because
That could
there's
be a
just
great lineup.
Yeah. I would love to watch that show.
Family more like so in the same vein, like Full House became Fuller House.
How about Family Mattered?
Ooh, past tense.
Well, see,
maybe we just change it to Families Matters or Families.
well, see, you're saying like mattered, but
That's
that means like obviously I get what you're saying there. Maybe like there'd have to be some like real big thing that happened and family mattered.
Oh, jeez.
Boom, boom, boom. No, that's too heavy.
That's
no,
maybe
no,
a little
no,
too.
no,
So
no.
the crazy thing is those two shows, Full House and Family Matters, crossed over.
They did?
Yes, there's an episode, at least one episode, where Urkel goes to the Full House, and he convinces
Yes.
Uncle Jesse, because Urkel has a very distinct look. Like he has his arms cocked out and stuff like that, and he's like, "Why do you do that?" And he's like, "Well, it's good for your circulation." And so he convinces Uncle Jesse to like walk around like him for a little bit, and it's
Nice.
90s slap.
Says it happened in season 4.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Oh, okay. Now, we're not going to do the thing we did last time where we just looked up an article and went through it, but an article here that says Urkel's Full House guest appearance created if you remember this, the TGIF universe 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So anyway.
That's right.
Yeah, I see it. There's a picture of Urkel and Uncle Jesse.
What I don't know...
Both kind of like with their arms out.
Yeah.
Like,
what I don't know is if Full House ever crossed back over to Family Matters. I kind of would doubt it, but it's possible. But like that and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like that was like the 90s family trifecta.
well, and they redid Fresh Prince.
Did
Right?
they?
Yeah, well, there was like a reunion.
Well, there's a reunion, yeah. But
Where did that happen?
reunions are like their own animal.
I thought they were rebooting it.
Oh, that would be interesting. I did hear something about that now that you mention it.
Yeah, because there was like a Zoom meeting, or was it in person? They had a reunion, right?
Maybe.
Like in the last year.
That'd be interesting to have like Will Smith come back as the Uncle Phil.
Did Uncle Phil die?
Maybe it was Uncle Phil who
Did he
died.
die?
I remember one of those like family pillar shows, like the patriarch died, and
Ah, yes, he passed away in 2013.
oh yeah,
Poor Uncle Phil.
pour one out for
He
Uncle
was
Phil.
cool. Why don't they want me, man?
Oh,
That was like the real heavy thing.
Yeah.
Will Smith and his real family,
yeah, because there was an episode where in the show, in case you're unfamiliar with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith is like a streetwise guy from
Philadelphia.
South Philadelphia, born and raised.
Is it South or West Philadelphia?
Jeez, I'm
West
gonna
Philadelphia.
get so much
born
flack.
and raised.
Yeah, that sounds better. Anyway, he goes to Bel-Air to live with his rich uncle and his family. And I've noticed that in modern times, rich uncles are in just really short supply lately. So, and so then, the havoc ensues of Will's streetwise savoir-faire trying to mesh with his cousins, like Carlton's really stiff upbringing and very... I don't know if I go so far as to say square, but kind of,
No, he's totally a square.
Totally a square.
He was a dork, man.
Absolutely. So in the show, Will Smith's dad is supposed to comes back and is like, yeah, well, we're gonna go and we're gonna do all this stuff and it's gonna be great. And then of course he doesn't. And so what was supposed to happen is that Will's character, who was also named Will, very convenient, I thought, was gonna be like, oh, I don't even care, that doesn't bother me at all, blah blah blah. He's gonna like just tough it out, and instead he like goes back to his own actual life and goes under this like short rant about like, why doesn't he want me? What's wrong with me? How come? And Uncle Phil, gives him a big hug and is like, but you're wanted here. And anyway, it's a really great moment, and it's one of the best like ad-lib moments, and it was like a moment between two people and two actors, not between like the characters, but they were just like, this is too good, we're leaving it in the show.
So that was an ad-lib?
Yeah. Will just like in real life, he just started breaking down.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So he wasn't supposed to do that then?
Nope. He was just supposed to be like, who needs that guy? And like that was going to be the end of the show.
Wow.
Or the end of the episode, and instead it went on to like
interesting.
Be this heavy
that
moment.
adds a lot more to that then.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's a great moment, if they would have scripted it, but the fact that it was a spontaneous thing, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so just kind of, then Uncle Phil gives him a big hug and just kind of shows what kind of man that actor was in real life too. That, gave him a hug and was like, you're home now. I forget what he says. I feel a little bad. He says something anyway.
I'm gonna have to watch that scene at some point.
Yeah, it's great. It's so good. Yeah, those are definitely shows that could come back and I think have a lot of, I don't know, it seems like a lot of shows, if they're meant to have any sort of positive impact, are just, I don't know. It's not the same now. It's not just, hey, here's like a wholesome thing that you could watch, and once in a while it'll get real heavy like that one, or of course Family Matters and Fresh Prince both touch on racism quite a bit and that sort of thing.
Yep.
And great, and they handle it, from what I remember, really well.
Yeah, because all the main, like, majority of the cast are black.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not.
Yeah, they don't really shy away as much from the issues that were being dealt with in the 90s and are still somewhat not really somewhat, but in a lot of places are still prevalent today. So it was I don't know, just having another show like that where it really was kind of at its core a family life show.
So that was like, these shows were all this was before like the explosion of like cable shows, right? These are all like broadcast, ABC, CBS, NBC, whatever. I don't remember what channels they were on.
After school syndication.
Yeah. So I mean, there's obviously these companies still make shows. I have not watched any of the shows that they've made. So I know that there's, I don't even know what shows they have now. Like, I've been watching, obviously football season started last week. So you're either watching Fox or you're watching CBS or NBC. So you get commercials for all of their shows. But, I don't know. There's a show about a black family. I don't know if that's on CBS, but it's like and I haven't seen any of it, but it's like, seems like a comedy, like kind of more like a lighthearted, in the same vein as like a Full House or a Family Matters or Fresh Prince kind of thing. But obviously it's made now and not in the 90s. But it's like, I don't know. It's like, now that I'm grown up, it's like I don't want to watch those network shows anymore. It just seems like they don't make as good a quality of shows. Now, that could be an unfair, stereotype of these companies. Like, to me, like my impression of like, just when I think about those shows, like my knee-jerk reaction is like, well, they're really over the top, like corny, especially like the dramas are like really over the top and corny, and the comedies, I guess, I don't know, I just haven't watched them, so I can't say for sure what they're like. But I'd be interested to see, like, you mentioned how Family Matters and Fresh Prince touched on or even or dealt with racial issues in the 90s, back when they were being made. I'd be curious to see what this other, what this show that's on now does. And I don't know what it's called.
I think, do you think maybe like, because the other major one in that era would be, of course, the Cosby Show.
Yes, the Cosby Show. I thought about that, and I'm just like,
yeah.
I remember I watched some of the Cosby Show, but I don't know that I watched a lot of it. I don't remember a lot of it. What I really remember is my dad was really into Bill Cosby's stand-up.
Oh, really?
And so we would watch Cosby's stand-up. There was one or two that we watched back in the day, and I really enjoyed it. But now you're just kind of like, Bill Cosby, yeah.
And that's like a whole debate of like, can you separate somebody's work from who they were?
Yeah.
I think it kind of depends for me. I don't know that I haven't tried to watch Cosby Show now that we know, what he was doing. But like, I don't know that I could, because every woman that walks onto the set, I'd be like, that's a victim. Like, I wonder if he like that. I think that would really sour it for me.
Right.
And I think that's probably a part of why like some of those wholesome shows don't work as well now, because somebody posted this thing that was like, what happened to, heroes and stuff that you could look up to, and why don't people want to, strive to be the best person as opposed to just kind of doing whatever they want and like not apologizing for anything, kind of a thing. And it's like, well, we tend to crucify our heroes if they mess up just this much. And not that Cosby messed up just this much. I think he messed up this much.
Messed up, like,
again, gesturing in the audio medium.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I think because of the way that we held up Cosby, especially, is like this great family guy and stuff, and then now we're like, oh my word, how did we ever?
Yeah, I think you're right, because it's like Cosby, and you're talking about like separating, actors, their work from the, real person they are, or what we know of them. Obviously, there's Kevin Spacey, who, after all the allegations and stuff against him came out, and he was just like, they just wrote him off. He was on House of Cards, and they just wrote him out, just like whoosh, he was just gone. And it's like, I had been watching that show because Kevin Spacey is a fantastic actor. Like,
oh yeah,
the stuff that he's made. Anything I saw him in, obviously before all this was, it was phenomenal. And
I haven't tried to finish House of Cards, honestly, because of that.
Same.
Like I'm only partway into like season 2.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
I don't remember where I quit watching. I think I was pretty much caught up. Oh, and then all this happened. I think that might have been before, like, I don't know if it was right before like a season dropped was when all this happened, and then I don't remember, but I didn't pick it up after that, because like the show itself was already kind of like but and then this happens and you're just like, no. But I will say, like, the first couple seasons, great.
I will warn anybody who's this is what I tell people about House of Cards. If you're gonna watch it, in the first 5 minutes of the first episode of the first season, if that makes you too uncomfortable, just don't bother with the rest of it.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that's kind of the tone that the rest of the show takes. It doesn't get any better or worse. It's about like that through the rest of the show. If you don't like that first 5 minutes, don't watch anymore, seriously. And you'll know exactly what part that I'm talking about when you watch it.
Yeah, because like that happens, and it's, that event is a real, like, oh my God, real shock.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, it's just like they push the pedal to the floor, and they just keep it there.
So it felt like just Breaking Bad did the opposite. Maybe we've talked about this before, but where you're like 4 or 5 episodes in, and you're thinking, and I'm thinking, okay, it's gonna be like poor dad has cancer, sells drugs, haha, and then all of a sudden it takes a turn, and you're like, ooh.
That got dark.
That was it? Okay. I see what we're doing here. What's the next episode going to be like? And then you watch and you're like, okay. So they were just kind of It was part of the storytelling
Mm-hmm.
to build up to this moment where there's like no turning back. This is it. But House of Cards, no, they just out the gate. It's like, let's be clear about who's the good guy here. Nobody.
Yeah. Pretty much nobody. And Josh is absolutely right. Listeners, if you haven't seen it and you don't, you can't take what happens in the first 5 minutes, then just don't watch it.
Yeah, just be done. I will recommend another show at another time for you to replace it with. Just be done with that.
So, yeah, I guess so. We're talking about these things, like we're bringing up like examples. Obviously, Tom Cruise, which I don't know if we talked about him last time at all, but it's like some people don't like him. I mean, obviously a lot of people do, a lot of people don't. There's this whole thing with him, and like people are like, oh my God, he's crazy. He's a Scientologist. He does all this crazy stuff. Now, granted, there's nothing that's on par, at least right now, that we know of, I guess, with Kevin Spacey and Bill Cosby.
Right.
But I guess it's another example of someone I could think of where you're like, okay, he's a really like dedicated and a really talented actor, who I don't think you can argue that he doesn't put like 100% of himself into like all of his roles. So it's like, I get if you're just not a fan of his acting, I guess.
Yeah.
But so I feel like with Tom Cruise, it got a little bit harder. Well, it wasn't hard at all before we started hearing this stuff. I think that was kind of around like when Katie Holmes, like when he was married to her, right? That's kind of when it started to come out. Like
he was real weird.
Yeah, or like rumors and stuff. And there's the couch jumping thing.
Yeah.
So like before that, you're just like, oh, whatever. Tom Cruise is great.
So I think the couch jumping thing though, like,
because he was on Oprah and he was like, I'm in love with her.
Crazy in love with her. Yeah. Well, there was like talks about how he was really intense and kind of crazy, and I think he just embraced it. So he was just like, yeah, all right, I can be this character. Let's do it. He committed to the role of being Tom Cruise.
After everyone was like aware of like, oh, Tom Cruise is crazy and he's a kooky Scientologist. I guess the thought was kind of in the back of your mind, or at least for me, in the back of my head when I was watching other movies. But I feel like I can still enjoy Tom Cruise movies.
I think it's because his level of crazy though is he
hasn't been like basically been accused and like pretty much found out to have done these bad things like Spacey and Cosby.
The worst thing I can think of where it's like you have a tangible accusation, I guess, towards Tom would be he like chewed out a crew member or something.
Christian Bale did that too, and they like crucified him for like 20 minutes, and then it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, and it's like, well, sure, I don't know. I'm not saying that's okay, because you really should treat your supporting coworkers as good as you can. But also, I kind of get it, especially for Tom Cruise. Like, thinking about this guy and how he does all of his own stunts, and like he will sometimes make the directors let him do multiple takes of the same thing because he wants to. Like, okay, I could get how how he's so focused on doing this dangerous stuff, and then for someone to mess it up for him, like, I'd be upset too. And I'm not trying to justify his actions, but it feels like there's a balance there, as opposed to Cosby or Spacey, where it's like,
I mean, one is like they yell at somebody, and the other is they like sexually assaulted somebody. It's like
big leap there.
And I can also kind of, I mean, I can understand Tom, and I mentioned Christian Bale. It's like, I think it's kind of the same thing. Like, somebody walked into a shot and messed it up, and it's like, okay,
be a professional. Come on.
I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, people are like, just lighten up. Come on, whatever. It's not a big deal. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, it's also their job. I mean, you can be like, well, being an actor, that's not a job.
It's
like,
work,
well, it is a
though.
job.
Yeah.
It's work. I mean, it's what they do. It's how they make their money. So it's just like,
I mean, are they overpaid? Yeah, definitely.
Of course.
But, on the other hand,
it's their job. I mean, whatever. I mean, you can kind of see it from both sides, I guess. But
Christian Bale and Tom Cruise actually try and be different characters, unlike other actors who are the same character and everything.
Yeah.
So,
right?
Man,
there should be like some action movie where it's like one of those movies where it's like two really awesome like almost like equally powerful or skilled characters like facing off against one another, like
in FaceOff.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but like, I don't know, like Tom Cruise and Christian Bale, they should be one where they're pitted against each other. Not like a weird not like the FaceOff where they swap faces.
I don't know. I think FaceOff is just like the ultimate example of two actors who were kind of in their prime, given a unique opportunity to act as the other actor in a movie, and like, I hate how many remakes we get nowadays, and it seems like they're always remaking the wrong movies. Like, remake a movie that didn't do well in the box office and be like, you know what, cool concept, bad execution, we're gonna do it better. Do that. But I think Face-Off, I think that's a movie that should get remade every 5 years
with different actors.
With different actors, like how just I don't know.
Okay, I'm following you here. Okay, so that movie with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, The Star Is Born. Yeah. Apparently that's been made like 4 times. Yeah. I agree with you. Why don't we just do it with Face-Off?
Yeah.
New actors.
Yeah.
So So
for anybody who's unfamiliar with Face-Off, all right, it's got John Travolta and Nicolas Cage. Mm-hmm. John Travolta is a law enforcement of some kind.
He's like FBI or something like that.
And Nicolas Cage is like a master thief and kind of insane.
He's a psycho criminal guy.
Yeah. And so in the movie, there's this scientist, I guess, who comes up with this method where he can literally like swap your face with somebody, but like not a fake one like in Mission Impossible. Speaking of Tom Cruise, but literally like surgically move your face to another human being. And so they do that with these two guys, and then like the rest of the movie kind of ensues.
I don't even get like how. What's the premise? Like,
it's really weird.
They like capture Nicolas Cage, and then Travolta's gonna infiltrate like the family or something, and then
I can't remember if he did it on purpose.
We're gonna have to watch it again.
We're gonna have to watch it again. So I've only seen it once, and it was.
It's been a while for me. I've seen it a couple times, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's 5 or 6 years since I've watched it.
That's like John Woo is the director.
Yeah.
So there's lots of doves.
Yeah.
And slow mo shots.
Right, and yeah, so John Travolta gets made fun of in that movie for like the weird face touch too. Just kind of makes everybody uncomfortable. He does it. So his character does this thing where like when he's talking to his wife or daughter, he like touches their face. But it's not like he reaches out and like touches their chin or their cheek. It's like he wipes from their forehead to their chin.
What?
Seriously.
I don't remember that at all.
You don't remember that? Lucky you.
No.
It's awkward as all get out. Anyway, so
face touch?
They have to figure out a way. John Travolta's character, who then gets Nicolas Cage's face, who then of course is just Nicolas Cage playing him. Like, so Nicolas Cage has to play as though he's John Travolta's character, but wearing Nicolas Cage's face. And that's a concept that could be remade every 5 years with like a new batch of actors. Like, do a totally different story if you want, whatever, but like have that same premise and just like let's just sequence the movies, even though they're not direct sequels. It'll just be like Face Off, blah blah blah, 2 or 3.
It's like, yeah, you hear who's going to be in Face Off 2025?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, who did they get? And you'd be like, oh yeah, it's Chris Pratt and Robert Downey Jr.
So okay, I think Cruise and Bale.
Do you think so? That'd be about right?
Yeah, I think that would be pretty sweet if they do that.
They both tend to super commit to their roles.
I was gonna say they're both really serious, but like no, they're like method. At least Bale is for sure, and Cruise is just intense. So I mean, he'll just do. They could both do it. So they would be playing. So they'd each have their own have a character, and then so they would have to play that character for a while, and then they would flip their faces, and so they would be.
The opposite
playing
character.
The opposite character.
Yeah, that just I think every 5 years you could just take like whoever the two like lead, and you could alternate, like so every 10 years you get a male version, and then every 10 years you get a female version. That would be interesting too.
Yes, a female version.
Because
oh my god,
like
Jessica Chastain, and no wait. Okay, she's good. I love Jessica Chastain, but what about Angelina Jolie and Charlize Theron?
That'd be interesting.
Because they've both been in these gritty we were talking about this before we started recording, like the Atomic Blonde, Salt was the one that
Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider, yeah.
Lots of kind of fun popcorny movies where you just kind of go for it.
Who would be like an off the wall one, like Melissa McCarthy and Angelina Jolie?
I think it'd be Melissa McCarthy and Rebel Wilson.
Oh God. we could do like, and we could have different themes. Like you could have like a stoner version. Like it could be like it could be like Pineapple Express Face Off. So it could be like James Franco and Seth Rogen could switch faces.
I think that would be. That actually would be kind of interesting. But yeah, you could totally just take any director who like wanted to sign up for it too. Like you could just be like, the studio could be in charge of it, and they could go around and be like, hey,
yeah, you could have different directors. It'd be like
that could be a cool thing to introduce somebody as like if somebody comes to them. It's like back in the day, Peter Jackson, when he wanted to make Lord of the Rings, people were like, I don't know, you've made only like weird, stupid movies. I don't think you can handle something of this project. And of course, he proved it to be wrong. But right. Like a tester, and the Wachowskis also, before they made The Matrix, there was another movie they had to make and prove that they had the chops to make a movie.
Okay.
So this could be like a proving ground movie, where they'd be like, okay, well, yeah. So you want to make this big whatever movie? Cool. We're in a face-off year. So
they could have like they could do like a draw, like they could have like a
raffle.
How they'll draw the groups for the World Cup, like soccer. They would have like draws for like, okay, and the director is gonna be, and the actor face-off main character 1 is gonna be Bradley Cooper, and face-off main character number 2, Chris Pratt.
That honestly, I think that could really
just
work.
Turn it into just like this whole freaking thing. How do we make this happen?
Hollywood,
are you listening to us?
They
Hello?
gotta be.
Hello?
Yeah, I was trying to see who made who produced the movie, because you could just do too, where like everybody who like every director who works for the studio, that's like a risk or whatever that they have to take, where they know that if they make a movie, it's in their contract where they may be selected to make the next Face-Off movie.
Oh, that would be so awesome.
That, I think,
dude, this is the best idea that I have heard in
ever. I don't know if there's a better
20
idea.
years.
Sliced bread is secondary to this. Okay, so it was
the internet,
right? Lame. Production companies were Paramount Pictures, Touchstone Pictures, and Permute Presentations.
Permute.
Never heard of them.
Buena Vista, distributed by Buena Vista. That was international. Paramount, United States.
Paramount, yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that could be. Oh yeah, so it's that's right. So Sean Archer, John Travolta, survives an assassination attempt by a freelance terrorist, which is weird when you think about it. Are there corporate terrorists then? I guess probably there are, but it's weird to label one as a freelance terrorist.
Means
he doesn't have.
When people would advertise that they, that they're hiring terrorists, like
here's my card.
AT&T terrorists.
Right.
I'm a terrorist for British BP, British Petroleum.
Yeah. Anyway, Face Off is a wild ride. Definitely worth watching.
We should watch it. We should watch it again.
We should, absolutely. It's such a crazy movie that even in that era had no business being made.
It was a great era.
I'm not knocking the era at all, but I just can't imagine trying to pitch this movie. So it was released June 27, 1997. So you figure that the pitch had to be made in I don't know, let's just say 95. So it was like a quick turnaround. 95, 94, something like that.
Okay, so on the Wikipedia, it says it was a spec script optioned to Joel Silver and Warner Brothers in 1991.
Oh, wow.
So it had been around since at least 91.
But yeah, just trying to pitch this movie, because even talking about it now, it's really hard to follow. To be like, oh yeah, this actor's going to play this character, and then their faces are going to get switched, and then this actor's going to play this other character as played by this other actor. Mm-hmm. So you'd have to have like a degree of collaboration between them for like how like intense to take things and different things like that.
I like this idea, Josh. I think this could just be, it'd just be like an every 5 years thing. It'd be like the next FaceOff. It'd be a great opportunity for like different like filmmakers, like everybody in the whole, like everybody involved in the project, you know, just like it'd be a new take on it. Do you think would they use the same script?
No, I think it
would just be a totally different, like, so they would have like certain like stipulations that they'd have to follow. Like it has to be two characters that swap faces.
Yeah, basically.
But that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Like and there wouldn't be any like.
Well, because think about like the different kind of, because like you said, like what if you had like a stoner version of that, or
how would they even swap their faces?
Like, right? I mean, because the whole premise, if you can buy into the face swapping technology, then the rest of the movie is like really grounded and kind of serious. There's like humorous moments, as in most action movies, but like it just goes. And Nicolas Cage is so Nicolas Cage. He's like over the top.
We can have a whole like episode on Nicolas Cage because he's a treasure. He really is a treasure.
Would you say he's a national treasure?
Yes. He's an international treasure.
Fair enough.
But
I am actually not a huge Nick Cage fan. He's just okay for me. And the movies that I tend to like him in a lot are movies that other people don't like at all.
So he's kind of like making those kind of movies now. He's not making like big blockbusters anymore. He's kind of doing these more like smaller, like, you know, horror, thriller, all perhaps even like B movie.
That's true.
Level stuff.
That's true, which I appreciate about him.
And I watched a couple of those. Like last year, I watched one where he was basically like a big game hunter and he ended up being trapped on a boat, like a tank, not a tanker, but like a transport type ship, a civilian ship.
Yeah.
You know, that was transporting animals, and there happened to be and they were also, of course, transporting a very dangerous prisoner who was supposed to be, you know, taken somewhere else and, you know, handed over to authorities, and Nicolas Cage just happened to be on there with his bunch of exotic, dangerous animals. And of course, the criminal, you know, gets loose and hijinks ensue. So that one was like a corny, like B movie, like which we talked about. This is kind of what we're wanting to talk about tonight. And it was all right. And then I watched this like horror, this really messed up horror movie that was based on an H.P. Lovecraft story. It was okay. So the movie was called Color Out of Space.
Okay.
So yes, it was a Lovecraftian horror film, and Nick Cage was a father of. There's a family, his family. So it's like his wife, and like their two kids.
It would have been a lot cooler if you'd said Nick Cage was Cthulhu.
I mean, it is Lovecraftian.
Yeah, but just Nick Cage, like not Cthulhu or like the tentacle thing. It's just Nick Cage that comes out of the sky.
Yeah, just Nick Cage. He does this like, you know, Nick Cage like facial tick thing, and like the, you know, the wide eyes.
You've summoned me here. This is what it is.
No, I have to destroy the Earth.
Everything. It's much better than that.
So, Color Out of Space was like, it was uncomfortable to watch. It was gross. Like it was just effed up, gross.
So that's very in line with like Lovecraftian type stuff.
Yeah,
though.
it was
like,
just,
and that's why it doesn't work a lot of times as a visual medium.
Well, and like it really, like if you look at the poster or you see some you see some clips from it, like the color obviously plays a big part in it, and there's like this this like pinkish purple color that is like that is just permeates the whole thing, and that's like kind of indicates this whatever this malignant alien presence that kind of appears. So I watched it. So what I did to watch it, because I don't know, I think I had seen something on Reddit about talking about Nick Cage and all these roles that he was doing lately, and so it mentioned these two films, and so I watched the action one first. It was on like Amazon Prime, and then this other one, The Color Out of Space, was I had to get like a free trial of the, gosh, what is it called? There's like a horror film streaming horror streaming service. I got like a free trial of it. Yeah. So anyway, that was interesting. And I don't know. So I don't know if you like the Lovecraft stuff.
It's
I don't know.
intriguing.
It's not for everybody.
But it's kind of, I don't know. I like the lore concepts that are applied in the books, at least.
I guess it really touches on that a lot. Like, of course, you know me, I like to go read like IMDb after watching a movie, and so it's talking about all these like, connections to the Lovecraft universe. Characters are named, certain names for characters, or like references to things, or the names of places are referencing Lovecraft lore.
Yeah, I've definitely wanted to run or play in a so there's a RPG system and game called Call of Cthulhu, where you are investigators and you investigate different things, and like the way that the game works is basically you play until your character goes mad or dies.
Oh.
And like, yeah.
How have you not told me about this?
So have I not? I apologize. And the way that I got introduced to that is, if you guys remember back when we talked about how I found GURPS, there's a video on YouTube where this guy does like kind of crappy animations of his D&D campaigns, and I just found them interesting, and there was kind of cool concepts in the way that he tells a story and stuff. And so he was talking about how he ran a Call of Cthulhu game, and everybody was in a house, and one of his characters, because his madness level had gotten too high, basically sets the room on fire around himself, with the justification that there's a puddle, like there's a wet spot in the floor, and so he's going to roll in that, and that's what's going to keep him alive. Well, obviously, that's not how fire works. So the whole house burns down and like kills all the characters. And they were all pretty happy with it. Like, it's kind of what you expect, apparently. Mm-hmm. But then they all were like, well, can we do it? Can we play again? We want to do another campaign like this. Will you run another one? He goes, sure. So draft your characters, and then they get together, and the first thing they investigate is that house that their previous characters had burned down. So it was like a cool way to like segue in and have one story and stuff. And that's kind of what made me want to try that out at some point. But
oh, dude, I looked it up here. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah,
in this game.
We
totally should play it.
I think from what I remember, I'm gonna make some stats up potentially, or misquote some stats. So don't take this to the bank because they won't cash this check. But if I remember correctly, Call of Cthulhu is like the #1 RPG game in like Japan. Like, it outpaces D&D by quite a bit.
You tell me what to buy and I'll buy it.
Okay.
We'll do it. I want to.
All right. Yeah, we'll do it. Let's do it. Yeah, we can do it. I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, that's cool that Nick did a Call, because those movies are really hard to make, because in the books in a written medium you can not say stuff. So you can just be like, oh, and it was like unimaginable horror, and then it's your imagination that puts that together, whatever that is to you. But then a movie, you have to show it. You can't just say, well, what was it? Oh, you can't even believe it. Well, yeah, I can. I'm watching a movie. Show me. So it's a lot different, and that's why it's harder to do Lovecraftian storytelling in movies.
Yeah, and I think that's why that the color was such a big thing, because that really helped them show like the difference between normal, and then suddenly you have this this pinkish purple color that people had never seen before, I guess. So okay, so speaking of what you're talking about there, so with the Lovecraftian Cthulhu, like in the book you can just you can explain it without characters having to say it.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember there was a Stephen King book, one of his more recent ones. Which one was it? Now I can't remember. I don't know if it was like the sequel to The Shining, or if it was, which is Doctor Sleep, or if it was something else. But I about said no spoilers. This won't really spoil anything. But there was like, he wrote like it was like Lovecraftian kind of stuff that was happening. At this point in the story, and he just wrote like, what did he write? He was like, and it was really terrible or something, like just really like
vague,
like, okay.
And
I like
not good.
So, and it was like, it stuck with me enough that like, and I never like go leave reviews for anything, but like I went on Goodreads and wrote a review of how I was like disgusted with that, because I'm like, come on, I'm like don't just tell us it was bad, like show it, like describe it.
Or with like what H.P. Lovecraft would do, he would describe how the person was feeling about it. So he would be like, and he would talk about how, if I remember right, because it's been a while since I've read any.
I've only read. I think I read. Was Call of Cthulhu like a short story?
I think so.
I think I read that.
But he would describe how the character was feeling, and so he'd be like, his arms were covered in goose flesh, and he started to perspire as he felt like the pressure of the universe like bearing down on him. Mm-hmm. And he would describe things like that instead of describing what the person was seeing, and that way it would leave it. But because those are all things that most people have experienced. And so you can put those things together and like imagine how they were feeling. Like, oh, that must be terrible. Mm-hmm. I can't even imagine what that would be like. And like, that's the point.
Yeah. And it's like, I just like, and I'm a big Stephen King fan, as you know.
Yes, sir.
So I read this and I was just like, I just felt really like it was lacking. I'm like, come on, dude. Like, come on, Stevie. You can do better than just say it was really terrible or whatever it was that he said.
That's like high school.
Yeah, and I'm like, and that's exactly what I was doing. I'm like, show us, don't tell us. I'm like, this is like whatever my like high school English teacher or my college, lit professors would say. It's I can't. I was trying to look for the review just to see what I said, but I can't find it. Yeah. Anyway, it's not that big a deal. But before we go any further, I know this is like reaching way back here to what we talked about earlier. The show that I was trying to think of that was like that is primarily a black cast, like but it's on like CBS.
It's on now.
CBS is called The Neighborhood. Cedric the Entertainer, I think, is the main character.
The ads for that look humorous to me.
Like today they were showing like the episode. It was like so this white guy, one of the white characters on the show, like he's like, I took a DNA test, and he's like talking to Cedric the Entertainer, and he's like, we're related. And Cedric the Entertainer's like, oh, please tell me I'm adopted. So, sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, no, Cedric the Entertainer's great.
He's hosting the Emmys tonight, I believe.
That's right.
So, okay, so that's out of the way.
So, Nate, we've kind of talked casually about you running a campaign. Maybe you should run a FaceOff campaign. Oh. So I have a manual for. We haven't played it yet at our game night because it does take a degree of commitment to it. But I have a book for a game called Fiasco, where there's no game master. Everybody's a participant, and everybody at the end of your scene, because it's all story driven. At the end of your scene, all of the actors basically, or all the participants and players basically vote on, I forget how it works, but they vote with dice, and they give you a die, and you either get a red die or a white die, and then you have to roll that. And one of them is like for like pushing you towards good things, one of them is pushing you towards bad things, and that's how you resolve like the chaotic element of an RPG. But I was thinking, like, that would be cool. You could almost do a 2-player campaign of FaceOff where you do that. It'd be a little tricky because there'd only be 2. But I don't know. I was just thinking maybe that would be Nate's first campaign to manage, or somebody should definitely manage like a FaceOff campaign because.
So it would be playing. So it wouldn't be like a regular GURPS one. Or...
Yeah. So Fiasco's its own system.
Okay.
GURPS is you build your character just like in like D&D and some of those, and then you go to do something. I'm gonna jump from this ledge to that ledge. Well, roll dex to see if you. You know, keep your footing and all that. So it's not the same. This is like Fiasco is primarily story driven, where you like as a group you decide on the scene or whatever, and you have like a little backstory for your character, and then you just go for it. And then at the end of wherever you feel comfortable saying, okay, that was the scene, then everybody at the table,
I got it,
who didn't participate in the scene, would basically give you dice based on how they think your character progression was going to go.
I see.
The tricky part is deciding when to end it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I see. So instead of like every single little thing involving a dice roll, you just roll through the whole thing until, like you said, you get to a stopping point, and then people are like, okay, now we resolve it.
Yeah, and it's more like improv, I guess, than like a traditional RPG.
And scene.
Right.
Very good.
Very good. Okay, Steven?
Steven, notes.
Yeah. Snaps.
I like that. Okay.
I don't know. I was like, man, that would be kind of, if we could find the right people, I think that'd be like really fun to commit to. Because then we could pick our own actors, and you could be like, you know, all right, so I'm going to play Christian Bale. So I'm going to start as, you know, playing as the good guy and the cop hunting down this person. And then you could come to the table and be like, well, I'll see your Christian Bale, and I'll raise you a
Tom Cruise.
Meryl Streep. I don't know. Something.
You know, that would be cool. Also, the X-Files GURPS campaign would be a good one, too.
I'm waiting for you to put that one together, man. I feel like
I'm going to have to do it.
I don't have enough expertise to put that together myself.
Yeah, and I think we may have mentioned this before. I think I would want to keep it more as like the Monster of the Week style instead of the overarching alien conspiracy.
Oh, yeah. I think that's
not nearly as interesting. Not as interesting.
There's pretty rigid rules, I think, in X-Files, from what I remember seeing. Because I think I've seen the first season or two, where, yeah, it's very Monster of the Week, and there's, like, definitely certain rules that they have built into the show.
Yeah, so the Monster of the Week are pretty much just, like, standalone episodes.
Yeah.
And
some of the best, though.
Right. And then the alien conspiracy stuff that kind of carries over, or it does carry over, for, you know. Well, I think that's all we're gonna do for this episode. Like, obviously I'll tell you that we kind of went all over the place and went in a direction different than what we were thinking, but that's kind of the way it goes, and that's okay, you know.
Yeah, definitely is.
If you want to check us out online, we're you know, it's all the handles is the Open Eclectic. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Ko-Fi. If you want to drop us a small donation for continuing this awesome work that we're doing, you can go there. Also, we're on MySpace.
Still working on that, actually.
Still working on. Okay, we're not quite on MySpace yet.
Quite finished getting that set up, but I'm pretty sure that's where all the happening stuff is going to happen.
If you have any ideas for shows or suggestions of things we should check out, you could email us at theopeneclectic@gmail.com.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Is our email address.
It's all in the closer.
Yeah. So, with that said, we'll sign off for now. Catch you later. Is that it? Good.
I don't know. I could sign off as Nate. We could really finish this like a FaceOff episode.
So anyway, I'm Josh.
I'm Nate.
We'll catch you on the flip side.
I'm gonna take his face off. Thank you so much for listening. You can find The Open Eclectic on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and MySpace. Want us to ramble on about something specific or have a comment on what you just heard? Send us an email at theopeneclectic@gmail.com. We now have a Ko-Fi if you feel like supporting the show. That's ko-fi.com/theopeneclectic. Or support the show by leaving us a review. Thanks. We hope you'll join us again next time on The Open Eclectic.